Welcome to Bet On. I am Kelly Stewart. All right, guys, it is college football week 5. Let's bring in our two favorite guys, VR, the Greek gambler, Gianni Corrales, and Marco D'Angelo at Marco in Vegas. Welcome, gentlemen. First, I would like to do something we don't normally do. Well, that's probably not true, but I'd like to pat ourselves on the back. And that is because we have been rocking and rolling this year on the show. I know I don't give a picks to every single game, but this is how we've done so far. Let's throw up the graphic. So far, everybody making our viewers money, and that makes me very happy to see. We appreciate all of your tweets, all of your comments on YouTube, smashing that like button. And here we are, week 5 of college football. I'm ready to get into it, gentlemen. Marco, something you wanted to touch on really quickly, though, in regards to what games we use towards our record versus the ones we don't.
Yeah, guys. We talk about it every week, and just want you guys to understand we're doing the records on everything except the TV primetime games. And the reason for that, and we've said it several times, is we want this to be an entertaining show. And for entertainment, everybody watches the Thursday night, the Sunday night, the Monday night games. We don't necessarily bet those games, but we're going to talk about them each and every week for you, at least so you know our sides, our opinions on the games. If one of those games slide into one of the categories as a best bet, as a barking dog, or we use it in a teaser play, then it will be graded. And that's because we're making an actual play. Remember, all the categories are plays that we pick from the entire board. We really like those plays, and we're putting our reputation behind those plays. And as you can see, those plays are delivering. So I just want you guys to understand the records so you don't add us on YouTube and Twitter and say, well, you lost that Monday night game. You lost that Thursday night game. We don't count them, win or lose. Okay. There you go.
Hey, Marco, I hate to break it to you, but only 2 of us had a play on that Monday night game. And let me tell you, was it great? I don't bet a lot of favorites, but when I do, I expect them not to do what Mike McCarthy did in the second quarter and make me turn the TV off. I took VR's advice not once, but twice on the game. First of all, he gave me the Cowboys -4, and then he said, don't watch. And the moment I turned that game off, life was good. So I'm going to start taking that advice just a little bit more often. But this is a game, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I got to watch. How can I not watch it? Ole Miss, 14.5-point underdogs at Alabama, total 79.5. Marco, I'm going to start with you. This game looks to be rather enticing. I'm not sure I'm going to get to the window, but man, Ole Miss kind of surprising a lot of people this season.
Well, Ole Miss, they've got Lane Kiffin running the show down there, so it's going to be high octane offense. And he's had 2 weeks to prepare, Kelly, and he gets to go against his former boss, Nick Saban, in this one. If you remember last year, what a barn burner. And for 3 quarters, Mississippi went toe-to-toe with Alabama before finally succumbing in that game 63-48. He's had 2 weeks to prepare. Alabama offensively, and man, this is not Alabama of old. Nick Saban has definitely, over the last 5 years, changed his ways with this Alabama offense. And part of that was due to Lane Kiffin when he was there. This is a high-octane offense, but that defense has suffered for Alabama. And if you remember the Florida game, they gashed them for 245 yards on the ground. And when you look at this Mississippi club, you would think automatically that they're going to pass the ball all over the field. They actually run the football very well. And they are what I refer to as a 200 club member. And what that is for new viewers are teams that both run and pass for 200 or more yards per game. That makes it very tough on defenses. What do you take away? They do both well. In fact, if you look at the last 2 games for Mississippi, they're actually a 300 club member. They've run and passed for over 300 yards in each of the last 2 games. I'm going to go ahead and call for the Alabama win, but I think that Mississippi can hang in there with the number. So we're going to call it Alabama 48-40. I hope the scoreboard operator gets a good night's rest Friday night, because he's going to be busy Saturday putting up 7s on the board. Take Ole Miss plus the points.
Yeah, this is a ton of points in this one, and I do not have the guts to bet the under. VR, a question I wanted to ask you before I got to who you like on this game. A good friend of mine has Ole Miss plus 18.5, and he said, God, I hate this side. It seems like everybody in the world's on them now. I said, I think you got a nice middle opportunity here, possibly. At what point in time would you buy back on Alabama?
if it dipped below 4, if he could get 13 and a half, I think I would shoot for that middle. Because, I mean, even in college football, you're looking at some dead numbers. It is a high total, and we're seeing it go higher. So, I mean, it's tough. It's a tough call. I always say this when it comes to hedging, scalping, middling. Like, if I live in the real world where in the right math is, oh, you should never give up equity. And if you have them by the balls, you don't want to let go, in other words. With all that said, like in the real world, we got bills to pay. We got kids to feed. Like if you could lock up a profit, sometimes it's not a bad thing to do. Like you got to look at the downside sometimes of losing that bet and not always the upside of winning it and saying, like, if I could turn a profit, what's so bad about making $1? Again, the quants out there are going to scream and yell, oh, that's not getting the full EV. That's giving up equity. Again, I live in the real world where math doesn't always play out in the long term because we don't live 6,000 years. So long term isn't always there for us. So again, in the real world, sometimes taking that profit when you could lock in a middle, lock in a hedge, I really don't knock anyone for doing that. Because if it's going to psychologically bother you to lose that bet, then why even go through that? Lock in that profit, kick back and move on to the next one is what I say. Again, the quants will argue it, but if you could make $1, I say make the dollar.
I like it. What do you have on this Ole Miss Alabama game? Has anything come across your beautiful computer screen?
No, and I was surprised we didn't get in on that over. I was seeing different groups pounding that over, and no one's even tried to buy it back with an under. So that over got a lot of steam. I can't mess with it now. I haven't seen any movement on the side from any groups taking the plus 2 touchdowns, above 2 touchdowns, or even trying to lay less than that on the Alabama side. Personally, I could only look to Alabama, and this is the reason why. Because here's when you look at the scores with Alabama, Mississippi, here's what you see. 2017, Alabama 66-3. 2018, Alabama 62-7. 2019, Alabama 59-31. Yes, then last year, Mississippi makes a game of it and still ends up losing by 15 points. Now, rest assured, Saban knows Kiffin's coming to town, bringing his explosive offense. They're undefeated. So Ole Miss is going to get Alabama's best game. And I truly think that Alabama's best game is better, more than 2 touchdowns better than Mississippi. And I think the home field advantage is just so understated right now. And even Kiffin said that. He said, we're in for us. I'm going to see how my kids are going to handle it because we haven't played in front of a crowd with COVID in like 2 years. And now this is an Alabama crowd, who are trying to defend that number 1 that they walk in with. So again, I think Mississippi, this is their Super Bowl. I get it. This is as big as it gets for them. But I just think talent-wise, they're just not there yet. I look at the top 20 schools as far as recruitment goes, and they're just not there. And again, until you get there in college football, you're not going to beat these Alabamas. You're just not going to do it. So give me Alabama. I'll lay the points. Again, I haven't bet this game or anything like that, but Bama or pass for me.
All right, we are going to see my favorite guy of the show. Sorry, VR and Marco. That is right. It is time to bring in Ralph Michaels. There he is, the guy with the pin, Ralph Michaels, bringing us all the trends and angles for this beautiful week in college football. Ralph, it's college football week 5. Where are we at, buddy?
The first 2 systems we're going to talk about are teams in a situation off a shutout win and teams off a shutout loss. First, college football favorites off a shutout loss. So we're talking about a team that got shut out last week and now they're a favorite. Those teams have only hit 43%. There are 2 very ugly teams this week. We'll see. Rice against Southern Miss Vanderbilt against UConn. So the system says to fade Rice and fade Vandy, which I have no problems doing. But that system then says to play on Southern Miss or Connecticut, which are two very ugly teams. So the numbers don't lie. We'll see what happens. And on the flip side, how do teams do that were an away favorite and off a shutout win? Well, who was that last week? That was the Georgia Bulldogs, who absolutely mauled Vanderbilt 62-0. Listen to these numbers, Kel. Teams like Georgia, off a shutout win as an away favorite, have covered 69.8% as a home favorite and have covered 75% against the spread as a home favorite of 8 or more. It's a strong game. I'm not sure I like the Bulldogs in that role, but again, the numbers don't lie. Those are teams off a shutout loss and teams as an away favorite off a shutout win.
Yeah, Ralph, I might just have crossed Arkansas off my list there. They were on a really long list. I was looking for a reason not to back them. I think you might have just given me that reason.
Well, now let's look at some teams that are doing great and some teams that are doing poor. Looking at a college football season from game 4 on, what do teams do that are 100% against the spread versus FBS foes? Going back to 2014, those teams like UTSA, Michigan State, and Penn State. UTSA is a perfect 100% against the spread against ATS. Michigan State did not cover against an FCS foe, but these are FBS games only. From game 4 on, teams that are 100% ATS have only gone 53-78, 40.4%. So Vegas does catch up. Vegas makes those adjustments. And if you're 100% against the spread after the first month of the season, you are a fade play. How about the opposite? How about winless teams that are a favorite from game 4 on? So you are at least 0-3, 0-4, 0-5, and you are a favorite. Not many instances, only 43. But teams with 0 wins that are a favorite from game 4 on have gone 26-16, 62%. It only applies to one team this week. It is Ohio against Akron. And I want to give you 5 team angles. Remember, when we talk systems, we're talking about any team that it fits a certain mold into a play. A team angle, less strong for me because it's specific. We just talked about Ohio being a positive play, being a winless team as a favorite. Did you know Akron is now 2-17 as a dog under Tom Arth and 0-9 as a home dog? The Zips just miserable and get overmatched week after week. Looking at Penn State, their head coach is now James Franklin, 15-2 against the spread off a win that they did not cover. So do coaches know when they didn't live up to their expectations as a favorite? That's a question for the coaches. But again, James Franklin and Penn State have gone 15-2 ATS the game after, winning a game but not covering. Dabo Swinney against good teams. Dabo Swinney, 13-2 to the under. So that's 2 overs and 13 unders the last 15 games, playing a team with a win percentage of 75% or higher. And the Pitt Panthers and Pat Narduzzi. Pitt's 4-0 to the over this year. They've gone over by 22 points per game. Narduzzi, 16-2 over-under when he's off back-to-back overs. So when the Panthers are on an over streak, they continue to go over 16 of the last 18 times. We'll see about this week. They're playing a great defense, at least a great defense this season in the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets.
Ralph, that's really funny. And I thought as you were singing, I go, well, maybe that's because he finally stopped kicking all those dang field goals. Thank you again to Ralph. We'll see you on the NFL show. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we return, that's right, we got some of those barking dogs waiting for you.
Like our videos, then subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification button so you'll always be the first to know when there's new content available.
Sign up for the free WagerTalk text club to gain access to free plays and exclusive discounts. Just text WagerTalk to 33222 to sign up and get a $10 coupon to use on WagerTalk.com.
Welcome back to Bet On It, where the dogs have been barking all college football season. It is time for Barking Dogs. Marco D'Angelo, my friend, you are up first.
All right, Kelly, I'm going to go to the Pac-12, and we're going to find a barking home dog. And let's face it, guys, the Pac-12's, not been that good this year. But the one team that has emerged out of the Pac-12 has been the Oregon Ducks, mainly because of that win over Ohio State. But the jury's kind of out on Ohio State. I don't know how good this team is. I know defensively they're not good. Offensively, they are. And everybody's going to look at recency bias, and that recency bias is going to show Oregon off a 41-19 blowout. So what? They played Arizona. Arizona is pathetic. And last week, Stanford laid a colossal egg against UCLA at home +4. So if they couldn't hang with UCLA getting 4, how are they going to stay with Oregon getting 8? Well, guys, I like to look at situations. I like to look at the schedules. Things aren't always just looking at the stats. And to be honest with you, the schedule finally caught up to Stanford last week. We talked about it before. They opened the season. Kelly knows where they opened the season at, in Texas against Kansas State. Then what did they do? They fly back home, and then they go on the road and play USC. Win that game. Then what do? They go on the road and have to travel to Vanderbilt. I thought that was a bad spot for them, but they delivered and got the money. Hats off to them. But then they had to travel back home and play UCLA. That was a pretty grinding 4-week schedule, flying, crisscrossing all over the country. This will be the first time they're home for back-to-back weeks. And right now, the stock can't be any higher on Oregon. It can't be any lower on Stanford after losing to UCLA, who just lost the week before to Fresno State, who Fresno State last week was life and death with UNLV. Yeah, they got no shot this week, right? No. Take Stanford, and you know what? I'm going to be bold. I'm calling for them to pull an upset, 31-30. Take Stanford plus the points is my loud barking dog.
I love it. 8-point barking underdog for Marco VR. Who is your underdog for college football week 5?
And real quick, remind me later, I got a bunch of gold because I want to continue to give shout outs to all our supporters, our followers. Again, whether you follow or fade, we love you guys for your comments, for your likes. Go down there and smash it, and I'll keep passing along as much info as possible. And even over there on Twitter, I'll keep doing it. Here's what I got. And for me, it's pretty simple. It's one of those, not the most attractive game on the board, but I love these spots for a little ugly school like Arkansas State, who's a tiny dog, a baby dog, but they were a 3-point dog, and we know 3 is such a key number. And for me to be giving them now that it's off that 3 tells you just how sharp of a move the Arkansas State side truly is, win or lose. And here's the reason. This is a team that's outperformed the betting market, regardless of record. And again, we live in the world where you lay 11 to win 10. Straight up is irrelevant to me. That's all that matters, how you perform against the spread and the closing line. And this Arkansas State team, again, has outperformed the betting market throughout this season. Only once against Washington, which I think is a good experience for them, seeing a team like Washington that early on in the season. And then on the flip side, the opponent, Georgia Southern, what have they done? Absolutely nothing since beating up on Gardner Webb, if you could even call it beating them up. They were 4 touchdown favorites, and they won that game by 5. And since then, they've just continued to underperform against the betting market until last week, where they got lucky against Louisiana Lafayette and covered a game. But here's where Arkansas State comes in this week. They're coming in off a game where the defense allowed over 600 yards, and the offense had 2 turnovers and only 38 yards rushing. They're so much better than that. And I've done so well by taking something I learned from Mark over a decade ago, where he talked about no team's ever as good or as bad as they look. And that was Marco talking about regression to the mean and progression to the mean, and stuff that all the quant guys and analytics guys then put numbers and names around. That's what he was talking about decades ago, to tell you now. And that's exactly what I think we're going to get here. A reversion to the mean. We saw an outlier game from them. And I think a quarterback like Blackman, you're going to get better than that. I mean, he put 300 yards up against Tulsa. He's going to put up a lot more than that against Georgia Southern. Give me Arkansas State, who shouldn't be an underdog in this spot. They're the dog again. That's why I'm taking it, even though it's off that 3. You sprinkle, call what you will, because what's the difference? Plus 115, 120, whatever it is. But yeah, I'm on the Arkansas State side.
All right. The deli was rather delicious last week, Marco, and I'll get to that again at the end of the show. But this week, you have a trap game for us.
We do, Kelly, and that trap game this week, man, this is one of those really tasty little nugget traps. And what is a trap? Okay, well, picture a mouse trap. You put a nice little piece of cheese on that mouse trap, and that mouse, he sniffs that succulent piece of cheese out. He comes crawling for it. It looks so tasty. He wants to reach out, take that bite, and the minute he takes that bite, bam! He gets his neck snapped. Well, that's what's going to happen if you grab a home underdog this week. Notre Dame, right there. That should tell you enough. Notre Dame is a home underdog. How many people are going to run to the window just for that fact alone? And what? Notre Dame's coming off an absolute blowout, 41-13 last week. Well, our girl Kelly, it seems like she's everywhere. You're like a fly at a picnic. You're everywhere across the country, Kelly. You were there. You saw the Notre Dame game. What was the score heading to the fourth quarter, Kelly? 10-10?
I believe before there was 2 pick sixes thrown. That was a rather close game. But it gets a little fuzzy there in the fourth quarter for me, Marco. I'm not going to lie to you.
Kelly, I saw your pre-game videos. I thought it was a little fuzzy before the game. I can only imagine by the fourth quarter. Yes, it was a 10-10 game going to the fourth quarter, and so that is a totally misleading score. And what did Notre Dame have to prepare for? Yeah, I was on Wisconsin last week. I'll admit it. But we said we know what Wisconsin's going to do. They're going to run the football down your throat. That's what they're going to try to do. Cincinnati is a balanced team. Notre Dame's going to have trouble containing them. And Cincinnati's had 2 weeks to prepare. Notre Dame's coming off a physical football game last week. That's one thing when you do play a Wisconsin team, you're going to have a physical game. They're going to run the football at you a lot. And how many times did they run the football last week, Wisconsin? Yeah, they ran the football a bunch of times. I don't have a stat in front of me right now. But that big physical O-line, now they got to come back and play a team, Cincinnati, that's, can be physical on defense as well. But this is a team that's going to have a balanced attack. They're going to test that Notre Dame secondary. They'll set it up with their running game. I like Cincinnati. I think they're a team flying under the radar because they're one of those not Power 5 conferences. Don't sleep on them. The lines maker gets this right with having Cincinnati as a road favorite in South Bend. There's a reason. Take Cincinnati. I got them winning 27-17.
Marco, I'm with you on that trap game. Cincinnati -2.5 was a game that I played early on in the week. VR, that's what the Steam game's all about. All those early in the week games. Tell us who your Steam game is this weekend. Now, maybe share a little bit of that gold.
An early move, real quick. I have not released any premium plays this week. It's like I do every year. Once we get 3-4 weeks into the season, we slow down and start dropping some bombs, and they start to come a little bit later. Wait to pick those spots, and then you'll see as the season starts going, getting out ahead. It's kind of a little progression that happens. And right now, the one play that a couple groups moved in on, and I 100% agree with, and at this number, I'll probably release this to my subscribers. I like the Vanderbilt side, and it made total sense when I dug into it because that's what I do. I take what they bet and handicap it and decide on where I think there's still value because you can't get out piggyback 300 plays. Anyway, make a long story short, this is the kind of game most bettors will overlook because you got two bad teams, and one of them's a 2-touchdown favorite. And that's exactly where I want to put my money. Yes, I'm willing to back a team that just got shut out and lost by 62 points as 2-touchdown favorites because they're that much better than Connecticut. The 0-5 Connecticut team is just that bad. And that loss against Wyoming, that heartbreaking loss where, yes, they outperformed the betting market, is the worst thing that could ever happen to a team like that when you're winless. Like, you almost tasted a victory as a 30-point dog, and now you got to go on the road against Vanderbilt, who's coming off an outlier game. Yes, Vanderbilt's not a good football team, but they've still been kind of competitive based on strength of schedule. I mean, they went into Colorado State as underdogs, won the game outright. They gave Stanford a little bit of a game at home. I mean, listen, when you compare at least skill set for skill set, Vanderbilt's the much better team. But again, I think this is one of those games where most casual bettors are going to overlook because you have a one-win football team given 2 touchdowns. But when you have 2 quarterbacks that combine for 5 and 18 with 2 interceptions for 24 yards passing, and they only rushed for 53 yards, and having Georgia put a 0 on you, you're going to get the best game from Vanderbilt. And again, Vanderbilt's not going to compete with Alabama. Vanderbilt's not going to compete with Georgia, but they're going to beat the lights off of teams like Connecticut, and they're just waiting to beat up a team like Connecticut. So give me Vanderbilt minus the 2 touchdowns. I'll follow that steam and lay it 14.5, 15. It doesn't matter.
I like it. It also agrees with a little TNA from Ralph. We are going to take a quick commercial break, but then when we come back, it is best bet time.
Have you checked out all the new handicappers at WagerTalk? If not, here's your chance. You can take 50% off your first daily or 3-day all-access purchase at WagerTalk using coupon code TRYWT. Our new roster of experts is 30 deep, covering sports from all around the world, giving you tons of options to choose from. All you have to do to redeem this offer is go to WagerTalk.com, choose a handicapper of your choice, and use coupon code TRYWT at checkout, saving 50% on your first purchase.
Welcome back to Bet On It. It's now time for Best Bets. I'm going to go first now. I'm really surprised this didn't end up as another sandwich spot for Marco. Why was I on Western Kentucky last week? Well, that's because Marco pointed out a really bad sandwich spot for the Indiana Hoosiers. Western Kentucky took that team to the wire, ended up losing by 2. 9 points was just too many. And I think 10.5 points is just too many this week. You've got Michigan State off an emotional overtime win to Nebraska. And sure, they only play Rutgers next week. But look what Rutgers was just doing to Michigan. This Rutgers team maybe deserves a little bit more respect. And little brother and Sparty might want to give it to them, but not until they have to play out of conference, play the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. Do you think that they really care that much? Not really sure, but Michigan State has been giving up a ton of yards through the air. That is perfect for the Western Kentucky's quarterback. I think his last name is Zapp. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I didn't even watch the game last week. I didn't have to. It was one of those games every time I checked the score, had way more important things going on. I like Western Kentucky here in the case of too many points, plus a little sandwich spot. Marco, I stole your stitch. I'm sorry about that, but who is your best bet for college football week 5?
Yeah, Kelly, I seem to remember when I said that sandwich game last week, you turned your nose up a little bit at the beginning saying it was a stinky sandwich, but those stinky sandwiches taste good when they cash. This week, I've got a big favorite. You know what? We could roll the tape from VR's Steam game because a lot of the same elements are in play here as far as the team I'm going against. And the team I'm going against is UNLV. Last week, UNLV played their guts out at Fresno State. They were a 30-point underdog. They had the lead late in the third quarter before finally losing the game 38-30 as a 30-point underdog. It was a gut-wrenching loss for them. They jumped out to a 14-0 lead, and then once Fresno State woke up, it was 38. It was just a manhandling from there on. But the reason Fresno State was sleeping was the week before. Guys, you've got to look at teams, what they're coming off of, what they've got on deck. And last week, Fresno State was coming off a monumental win. They went to UCLA, a game they dominated the entire game, and UCLA had come back and got the lead late with under a minute to play after leading the whole game. Most teams are going to roll over and die after blowing the lead in a game like that on the road. But Fresno State marched down the field and scored in the final seconds to win that game, beating UCLA, and then had to come home and face UNLV. They probably were still partying Friday, the day before the game after the UCLA win. And how can you get excited for UNLV? They're one of the worst teams in college football. Trust me, we get to see them out here every single week. My team that I've ridden a lot this year, and I'm going to ride them here again, Texas San Antonio has been good to me when we've been on them, and they've got a dynamic offense. I don't know how UNLV, even if they were totally focused and not heartbroken from that loss last week, could contain this team. But after last week's loss, what do they have left in the tank? And oh, by the way, they're on the road for the second week in a row. Yeah, that's not as big of a deal. But what is a big deal is when you're on the road for 3 of the last 4, it starts to take its toll, and you're coming off a gut-wrenching loss. I generally don't lay 21 points with teams, but this one has blowout written all over it. I've got Texas, San Antonio, 45-17. Go ahead and lay the 21.
Laying 21. Marco says lay it or don't play it. VR, who is your best bet for this week?
All right, I'm going to go again and fade that team that beat me last week, Louisville with Florida State. And I'm taking Wake Forest. They're minus 6.5, 7. Let's grade me at minus 7, but look around because there's 6.5 out there. This Wake Forest team is 100% legit, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And that's the difference maker this week. That's where Louisville is going to run into a buzzsaw that they haven't had to face yet this season. More importantly, when you look at the Wake Forest team on the offensive side of the ball, they're just as good. That's where this year you do see that difference. I mean, you're looking at a team that put up 35 or more points every single game. Higher totals you're seeing. So it's not just the defense they're relying on anymore. And I think that's where Louisville's going to have a big problem. Again, when you have a quarterback completing 66% of his passes, thrown for almost 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns and 1 interception, you're going to win a lot of football games. I don't think a touchdown's enough. I think they extend this into a double-digit win easily. So give me Wake Forest. I know I gave you guys a bunch of sides on Monday Night Football, so go back and watch that Monday Night Football one so I don't repeat it again. But I know we started with UTEP at 3.5. That's up to 5, 5.5, or 6 now, and ended with Oregon State, I think. So let me give out some more. And then the NFL, I'll give out a ton. I got a bunch of totals for the NFL. I'll give out college totals. But here's a bunch of sides. 109 BYU minus 7.5. 155 USC minus 7. 270. Oh, I'm going to save that for NFL. 150. I gave you that one. Sorry, guys. I got to look through these as we're going through it. 200 Wisconsin minus 1. 132 Penn State minus 10.5. And like I said, all those other ones I gave you, the UCLAs, the Iowas, the Kents, the Armies, the Illinois. Those were steam plays. Lines probably move. Use it to follow, fade, ignore. Watch the NFL one. I'll pass all those totals, so at least you know which one of these are legit moves. And I'll pass only the ones that more than 2 groups are on. So those are the most legit. So make sure you watch that.
You love to see it. Thank you to Marco and VR. Again, like VR says, smash that like button. Jump in the comments. Tell us how bad we suck before the games, or you could actually be nice and tell us how great we've been. That being said, we're going to take our last commercial break for the recap.
Why is our 269 October All Access special one of our best deals ever? Let us count the ways. 5 college football Saturdays, 5 NFL Sundays, full month of MLB playoffs, NHL starts October 12th, NBA season starts October 19th, plus any other sport your favorite handicap releases, all for under $9 a day. As an added bonus, sign up early and get the rest of September included for free.
That's right. It's time for the recap. Big game breakdown. We got opposing views here. VR says Alabama. Marco says Ole Miss. Either way, it's going to be a shootout. The dogs are still barking here on Bet On It. Arkansas State for VR and Stanford for Marco. I wish I could name a player on Arkansas State. It's just not a conference I cover, but I like that Stanford +8. It might even make my parlay this week. Steam game. VR says, hold your nose, cover your eyes. It's going to be super ugly, but Vanderbilt should win by 21 or more. And the deli closed down after its amazing win last week. So Marco brought in a trap game, said lay it with Cincinnati -130. My best bet, Western Kentucky +10.5. VR's best bet, Wake Forest -6.5. And Marco said UNLV is done for the year. Lay it with UTSA. Thank you guys again for hanging out with us each and every Wednesday for the college football edition of Bet On It. Do not forget to check out the NFL edition of Bet On. I know it's out late on Wednesday nights, but it is what it is. We're giving you guys all sorts of great information, and it's all for free. So what do we want you to do? We want you to share this video. We want you to hit that like button. Give us a little bit of love in the comments. Retweet it on Twitter. Until next week, we'll see you guys then. Let's bet on it.